Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2021 and another part of this experiment where we're seeing what would happen if you had the perfect player in Football Manager, except only now he has become the greatest manager of all time. So you can see on the screen I have changed up his coaching and mental attributes to the best that they can be, except for level of discipline. We don't want a total authoritarian, so I went for in the middle with 10, but everything else is up at 20. He's only got a national A licence. There's nothing I can do to change that at this point. He would have had to have done more badges when he was a player, and that just is as high as he got. So what we're going to do is probably just dump him in a club. I was thinking of putting him in Blythe Spartans again, where he started his career as a player, and then, well, it says here he began his career at Chelsea, which isn't quite true. If we look at his career stats here, you can see he actually did start out at Blythe Spartans, so we can start him out there as a manager and then see how he gets on. It's really difficult when they don't have the Continental Pro license, but hopefully by starting in non-league they will allow him to go and do that Continental Pro license, and then he'll be able to move on to different teams and work his way up the football pyramid, either with Blythe Spartans or with somebody else. But you can see he's also got perfect assistant manager and coach. Stats say, if we look at his staff details as well, everything is maxed out, including his reputation. His attributes and other things are all roughly in the same spot, but some of these issues like loyalty has been dropped to 1 because I'd quite like him to move clubs when he gets the opportunity. Ambition's quite high, pressure, professionalism, all of that, but controversy down at 10. We don't want him going around just causing a ruck for absolutely no reason. So what we'll do today is just run forward through his entire managerial career in one episode. We'll have a look at how he does at Blythe Spartans, then we'll have a look at how he does at his next club, all the way up to his eventual retirement, probably in about 20 to 30 years time at the age of 42, and see if the greatest player of all time can also become the greatest manager of all time. So let's jump forward now to his time at Blythe Spartans and see just how it goes. So we have now gone forward into the future, and his time at Blythe Spartans actually began on the 19th of August. So these first few games here, he wasn't in charge of the team. He came in and replaced the manager at this point when I used the little in-game editor up here to give him a job. You can see his first game was actually a 2-0 win against Worcester, followed up with a 3-1 win away from home against Farsley. His first defeat came against Brackley, but they had a good little run in the FA Cup, making it into the 4th qualifying round before losing to Kidderminster. But their league form, pretty impressive over this period of time, especially here. This little run from the middle of January onwards was excellent, not losing a game for a very long period of time, and they did eventually make it into the playoffs, but were beaten again by Brackley, who seemed to be the real difficult opponents for them in getting through. So unfortunately they weren't able to get promoted in that first season. You can see they actually finished in 4th place, only 5 points off the title. Really unfortunate they didn't make it there, and maybe if he'd come in a little bit sooner they could have had a bigger push, but that's a really tight finish at the top of that table that season. And then if we have a look at the following season, where he has his first full season at Blythe, you can see starting off with a win against AFC Telford, a pretty good start to the league campaign, through in the FA Cup qualifying rounds, and in the first round take Plymouth to a replay, which is a pretty good result before being beaten. That only their 3rd defeat of the season in all competitions. They're going through in the FA Trophy as well, before being beaten by Bolton, again higher league opposition that they took to a replay. League form was pretty good up to this point, where it started to fall off a little bit, but generally still winning a lot of matches overall. And you can see they did make it to the playoffs for a second year, but were beaten in the semi-finals, so not able to make it up the leagues. And if we look, you can see they finished in a higher position, and that 98 points would have been enough for second place the season before, but 2 teams finishing with over 100 points, which is pretty impressive, and denying Blythe the chance to go through. Chelmsford winning the playoffs. It is one of the hardest league tiers to get out of, because only 2 teams go up, only one of them goes up automatically, so 24 teams in that league makes it really difficult to get out of this situation, and they've not been able to do it during that period. But if we have a little look at where Blythe finished in the seasons before that, you can see they were down in 14th, 15th, 16th, 15th. You know, they weren't even getting in the top half. And then 2 seasons with him as a manager, 4th and then 3rd. But the disappointing thing is that he has decided to leave the job at Blythe. If we have a look at the managerial record here, you can see he had a 61% winning record, which is, compare it to the guy that came before who had a 32% winning record. The one before him was 35%. 5 years for this guy at 35%. Jenkaldo Jr. had 2 years, 61% win record, only 18 games lost. And then he left the manager role. And I'm not really sure why he decided to leave the managerial role. It's a little bit of a mystery to me why that's happened, but he decided to leave. If we have a look at where he is now, he's unemployed, so it really just doesn't make an awful lot of sense why he left. There's just no explanation of it, which is a shame, really. He just says he left the role, which I don't understand. I wish they'd give you a little bit of context as to why that's happened, but it looks like he resigned, left his job, and no longer wanted to be manager of Blythe. So what I'm going to do now, because I have gone forward and he doesn't ever get another job if you don't intervene. Again, he's only got that National A licence for whatever reason. Maybe his reputation's too high relative to everything else, but he doesn't get another job. So I'm going to move him a little bit across the border to make him manager of Newcastle United. Just throw him right in at the top and see if that enables him to start really delivering on his potential and have a good time as a manager at the highest level. So let's go forward now and see how long his Newcastle career goes and what he manages to get up to. Well, we have gone forward and he was made the manager of Newcastle just before this game against Sparta Prague, actually. And he has had a pretty interesting time at Newcastle. He's actually been here for 12 years at this point. A really long time to stay at a team that often does get relegated and come back up or struggle to move forward through progression, so the manager gets quite stale, eventually gets sacked. But you can see his first ever game as Newcastle manager was a 2-1 away win against Chelsea, managing to win that. Also beat Everton 2-1 before being beaten Wolves by 3-0. Managed to get through in the Carabao Cup to the quarter-final stage, but beaten by Bournemouth. Their league season not doing particularly great things, but the following season another good run through the Carabao Cup, losing in the semi-final to Manchester City. Another really poor run of form, actually not winning very many games there. That's a real risk for him, but he managed to keep his job. And really the league, as you can see, very inconsistent, making it through some of the cup competitions to the later rounds, but losing to Liverpool, losing to Manchester United. That's perfectly expected, really. We're just wondering if he can get them into a European position, maybe win a trophy with this Newcastle team. It's really, really hard to do. As you can see, season after season, they are finishing mid-table, but just not progressing very much. And you can see a few defeats there before having a great January to really turn it around. And they did make an FA Cup semi-final, but beaten 3-0 by Leeds in that game. The following season, again, a good cup run in both competitions, but not making it past Spurs or past Reading, where they lost on penalties. Again, not a lot happening there. The following season, quarter-final, 5th round, and then we're getting towards the end of his time at Newcastle here, where they go out in the 5th round of the FA Cup, and then the following and final year, not making it particularly far. Now, he did continue as manager here up to about November time, around here, where he decided to leave the job. Now, that's quite a big winter break. No, that's only a week, but for some reason there's only 3 games in November there. But they did carry on doing reasonably well, actually, after he left. But sadly, he did leave the Newcastle job in that time. If we have a look, though, at the Premier League table over this period of time that he was manager, starting off, I think in 51-52 season was his first season as manager. Maybe start off before that, so you can see Newcastle down in 15th, 17th, 14th, flirting with relegation quite a lot there. Actually only came up 2 seasons before that. So when he came in here, they just finished in 15th. His first season he takes them up to 13th, 14th again, very consistent 14th. Look at that, 4 years in a row he finished 14th, then 13th. But survival's pretty much guaranteed at this point. Again, dropping down to 14th, lowest position of 15th there. 14th again, before actually finishing up in 7th. Look at that. That is quite a jump out of nowhere. an extra sort of 12 points in the season coming into it, and finishing not far off Manchester United. And for some reason, Bournemouth must have won the Champions League despite finishing 14th, or the Europa League, one of them, and got the extra slot, which meant that even though they finished 7th, they actually missed out on Europe. And the following season, they finished down in 9th behind Bournemouth as well. The year after that, his final season, they finished down in 12th, so a little bit disappointing they weren't able to kick on. 12th again the following year. So really disappointing he wasn't able to kick on during that time, but he was manager for a really, really long time. If we look at this managerial record here, 12 years and 125 days as manager of Newcastle before he chose to leave the managerial role. So he's actually never been sacked as a manager. That's a really long stint. They had this guy there for 9 years as well, so 2 really long stints. Clearly got owners in who are very happy to back their managers and keep them in the job. But he did decide to leave, and he actually left to go to Hertha Berlin, who had won a few titles in the 40s, a couple more in the 50s, and had just dropped off a little bit. You can see here around this point they finished 2nd, and then they dropped off to a 4th and 4th. So he joined them around November time last season, and you can see here that when he joins, they just lost 3-1 to Bayern, I think. It's been a pretty rough start to the season, but he comes in, they start winning games immediately. After that Bayern defeat, beating Werder Bremen, beating Porto in the Champions League as well, so he's finally getting to taste European management, and it's nice that I didn't intervene here at all. It just happened that he moved on. They actually beat Manchester United as well, 3-2 over 2 legs to make it into the quarterfinals, where they beat Schalke 4-3 as well to get through to the semi-finals, and a 2-2 draw away in Madrid, followed up by a 2-2 draw at home, and out on penalties in the Champions League semi-final. He nearly won the Champions League in his first season at Hertha Berlin, and unfortunately in the league table that season they weren't able to win the title. They finished in 4th place, Champions League qualification secure for another season though. You can see the past winners there, all either Schalke or Bayern Munich. A few there for Hertha Berlin when they were having a really good run of it, but that has just died away. They did make it to the DFB Pokal final as well, but beaten 3-2 by Schalke, the champions. He went on to do the double there. Champions League was won by Real Madrid in the end, so that penalty shootout is what it came down to. A final against Barcelona. I mean, that's quite a tasty final, Real Madrid and Barcelona there in the final, but it would have been nice for them to get there and potentially win a Champions League title. But a really interesting time at Newcastle United. So I'm just going to go ahead to the end of his time at Hertha Berlin, see how he gets on, and then potentially where he goes next, because he is now, if we have a look at Jenkaldo Jr., he's now 58. I don't know how much longer he has as a manager. You know, if you retire at your mid to late 60s, then he doesn't have a huge amount of time left to start racking up a few trophies, and he hasn't yet won a single trophy as a manager. So let's go ahead and see how he finishes his time at Hertha Berlin. Well, you can see here that he actually didn't get that much further as manager of Hertha Berlin. He was only there for a year and 213 days, leaving on the 23rd of June at the end of his 2nd season at the club and the end of his first full season at the club. So if we just have a quick look at that senior squad schedule through that period, you can see they did make it into the Club World Championship quarterfinals, beaten by penalty in extra time by Real Madrid. That's a real sucker punch. The league campaign going reasonably well, Champions League campaign going reasonably well, through against Lask into the quarterfinals, where they did go out on away goals to Chelsea, which is a bit of a blow. Bundesliga campaign not going too badly. Remember, they finished 4th last time. They finished 4th this time as well, but much closer to Schalke at the top there. Big gap in the Champions League places, and very nearly finishing higher than 4th place as well. But not a great season of success, not a great time of success at Hertha Berlin, but he did really develop into a very, very good manager. And if we just have a look at where he's gone now, he is a manager of Manchester United. He's moved there. They poached him from Hertha Berlin. He wasn't sacked. He didn't resign. Well, I suppose he did resign to take the job at Hertha Berlin, but he went straight there of his own accord. And it's interesting because Man United is where he finished his time as a player, and it looks like it might be where he finished his time as a manager. So long as all things go well, he will be finishing his time as manager of Manchester United. So it's going to be an interesting last little bit to this experiment to see if he can match the success he had as a player with Manchester United to where he what he can do as a manager to what he did as a player, because he won an awful lot of competitions which aren't being shown here for some reason in his biography, but he did win a huge number of trophies with Manchester United. There's a little glitch here which means that he's not showing those trophies. A real blow that's not there, that's not listed under his achievements. I wonder if it's in his milestones. Well, you can see here actually all of his competition wins, the FA Cup, Premier League titles in there as well, Champions League titles with Manchester United, more than one. A really successful time at the club as a player before now coming back as a manager. I've also found his job screen here where you can see that he was offered the Manchester United role and then left Hertha Berlin to take it up, offered the Hertha Berlin role and left Newcastle to take it up. So you can see they were definitely deliberate moves, not random interventions. But it's going to be interesting to see if he can win Champions League titles, Premier League titles with Manchester United during this period. Because if we look at the club as it stands today, they've had a pretty interesting time. Again, 40s and 50s they've been winning titles, but since then it's dropped off. They won one about 6 years ago, another one just a couple of years ago. So they are a team in and around the mix. They're a top 4 team. And the question is, can they win more titles and build a real period of success under Jenkaldo Jr.? But let's go ahead and see how he finishes his career, potentially as manager of Manchester United. Well, it says a lot. We're now in the year 2085. He was made manager of Manchester United in 2065, so he's had 20 more years at Manchester United. And you can see that he starts out around here, I think. Actually, he starts out while they're still in the Club World Championship, so his first game's a 2-1 win there against whatever team this is, Al Ahly. And then his first proper game at Manchester United is a 2-2 draw away from home against Manchester City, but it's a cracking start to his time at the club. If we go down, he does win his first competition as a manager, a 2-1 victory over Norwich in the Carabao Cup final, beating Newcastle of all teams in the semi-final over 2 legs. But they also get through in the FA Cup and Champions League. In the semi-finals though, losing to Chelsea, but they also managed to win the FA Cup, so that's added to their list of honours. We will run through the Premier League campaigns as well, but you can see the following season, Champions League semi-final again before being beaten by Real Madrid. That's just accidentally reset everything, but maybe that's a better way to look at it. The following season you can see Champions League, Carabao Cup out very early, but Champions League went reasonably well into the semi-finals before being beaten by Real Madrid once more, lost the Community Shield and not able to get through in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. Carabao Cup out in the quarterfinals, Champions League through to the semi-finals, but beaten by Chelsea again. They can't get past Chelsea or Real Madrid, but they do win the FA Cup against Stoke. They do win the Community Shield. Another good run in the Champions League into the semi-finals, beaten by Bayern Munich this time. No FA Cup, no Community Shield. The following season out at the quarterfinal stage by Chelsea again, beating them there. The following year out in the quarterfinals to Celta Vigo. It's just not his competition as a manager, unfortunately. The following year, semi-finals once more, this time beaten on away goals by Inter Milan. They're just not having any luck with this whatsoever. And the following year, Club World Championship, beaten in the semi-finals by Borussia Dortmund, beaten in the third place playoff by Chelsea, Champions League beaten in the quarterfinals by Inter Milan, FA Cup beaten by Spurs in the final. He's not a natural trophy winner, beaten in Aston Villa in the Carabao Cup final. Europa League this time as well, beaten by Galatasaray. No, not beaten by Galatasaray, beaten by Celta Vigo again. Celta Vigo, even in the Europa League, knocking them out. Beaten in the FA Cup final. Beaten. That is the common theme here. Champions League, made it to the semi-finals. Beaten in the semi-finals by Inter Milan. And then we come to his final season as a manager, where if we sort this one by date period again, just to get that feel for how his last season as a manager goes. Champions League, he's doing reasonably well. Gets through to the FA Cup final, which is nice. But the Champions League, beaten in the semi-finals by Barcelona. At least that makes a change. Also lost in his last game as manager, a 1-0 defeat to Chelsea, of course, show that he was a little bit hard done by during this period of time as Manchester United manager. But if we have a look at the Premier League, hopefully there's a bit more glory for him in this time. So his first season was this one here, second place to Bournemouth, and then he wins the Premier League title in his second season. A really low total, 76 points. 70 would have won the title. I pretty much guarantee that's the lowest points total for winning a title ever if they'd got 70. But they'd win it again, and then lose, finishing fourth. Come back to win it again for 3 years in a row for the second time, but then drop down to fifth, which is a real drop. Come back to third, and then finish fourth. And then in his final season, they actually finished down in seventh place, which is a real blow. So no surprise that he chose to leave his role, or whether he chose to, he was moved out of his role as manager at that time. But what we want to just have a look at is if we go and take a look at he is retired now, so it's quite hard to find it, but if we have a look at Jenkaldo Jr., he retired at the age of 79 because he went on to become the director of football, which is a really nice touch. Look at that. So 2065 to 2077, 12 years as manager of Newcastle, 6 Premier League titles, a few other trophies in there as well, and then he was made director of football for 8 years, director of football at Manchester United, retiring at 79. A real nice touch that he managed to do that. Look at his career milestones here. 308 first place awards as a personal person, I guess, but 75 for the team as well. So lots of individual awards, but also lots of competition awards as well across his career. A fantastic biography here. 12 years, so there you go. 2 Community Shields, Carabao Cup, FA Cup 3 times, and 6-time Premier League winner before becoming that director of football at Manchester United. Let's see if he was sacked as manager. Anthony Martial, 2 times caretaker manager. But Jenkaldo Jr., he was indeed sacked. So he was sacked for finishing 7th despite winning 6 Premier League titles, a 62% winning record as manager. Lots of managers have been sacked from Manchester United, but not many of them get moved to the director of football role afterwards. So a nice touch for them to do that, to move him out of his position after dropping away as a title winner a little bit. But he won the 3 titles in a row twice, which is not bad going. So a pretty successful career, I would say. Now, if you enjoyed this experiment, do drop a like down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. There's another experiment coming in a couple of days, so definitely make sure you're around for that. But until next time, see ya.